All right. Thank you. We're live now. Thank you, everybody, for joining today's live stream. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, wherever you might be at the moment. Right now, it's a bit chilly and it's a bit cold right here now in Perth. In fact, it's kind of raining outside. So I hope the sound of the rain doesn't get into today's live stream. So I would like to thank everybody who's joining on today's live stream. I'm glad to have you here. So for those of you who cannot attend the live stream, if you're watching the recorded version of this video, don't worry, as I will be doing more YouTube live streams in the future. So in today's live stream, I would like to make it a bit more interactive and engaging. So today's topic, it will be about product owner versus product manager. The reason why I want to talk about this topic is because this is one of I would say, one of the most popular question I get in my Scrum.org professional Scrum product owner classes. So usually during the morning when I kind of ask the participants to kind of list down all of the things they want to learn. So most of the time, this question will come up. So, what's the difference between product owner and product manager? Because a lot of companies have both roles. So, I'm going to share with you, not based on my personal understanding about what is the role of product owner, but I'm going to share with you, most importantly, is the intent of the co-creators of Scrum behind the role of product owner. Why did they come up with the term product owner? Because if we go back to history, um, the role product manager actually already existed prior to Scrum itself, and before even the term product owner kind of emerged into the market. So product owner is a Scrum specific term, and I will share with you because I've been working with one of the co-creator of Scrum in the past, Ken Schreiber. So I kind of know what's his intent. I've interacted with him. I had a discussion with him, and I talked a lot about the role of product owner with him. So along the way, along this live stream, I'll be presenting the um, product owner versus product manager. I have a few slides just to get the same understanding so that we are on the same platform. So at the end of this presentation, after I kind of already presented my presentation, so we're going to enter the Q&A session. So I think if you are accessing today's live stream from a web browser, I think from your right, yeah, from your right, there is a chat box. So feel free to drop in the questions there. So along the way, or at the end of today's live stream, I'll be answering your questions. So if you're accessing this from a tablet, I think the chat box is like down below. Okay, so today's live stream will be about product owner versus product manager. As I said, that I get a lot of these questions, not only in my Scrum.org professional Scrum product owner classes, but also in the community meetups that I attend, whether that is like Scrum or Agile community meetups or product management meetups or software development meetups. So this is one of the question that I get a lot. In fact, in my YouTube channel, people leave comments and they ask me, can you please make a video that kind of differentiates a product owner and a product manager? So, okay. So let's start today's presentation. And at the end, we'll do a Q&A session. You can ask me anything specifically related with this topic, product owner versus product manager. Okay, sorry about the technical glitch there, folks. So, before we start today's presentation, I would like to introduce you myself. So, some of you already know, some of you who already subscribed to this channel. My name is Joshua Partugi. So, currently, I'm a professional Scrum trainer with Scrum.org, but I'm also still a Scrum Master. So, currently, I am Scrum Master. What's so interesting is because of the recent pandemic, now remote working becomes a new norm. And I'm currently Scrum Mastering, coaching team based in Malaysia, Southeast Asia. So I'm currently still a Scrum Master. And in my free time, I do Scrum.org professional Scrum trainings. So besides doing trainings, I'm also a co-active coach. So I do like life coaching, career coaching, leadership coaching. If when I'm Scrum Mastering, it's mostly like for a group of teams or a group of organizations. When I'm coaching, it's mostly individuals, like one-to-one coaching. And as you know, I'm vlogging occasionally here on this channel. So if you're new to this channel, don't forget to subscribe to my channel, as I will make a lot of content in the future and also live streams in the future, mostly related with um, Scrum, Agile, and coaching. So currently, I'm based in Perth, Western Australia, down under. It's a beautiful place. I love it. I love it here. All right, so let's start today's presentation about product owner versus product manager. So, as I said in the beginning, it started with curiosity because a lot of people ask me, so what's the differences between product owner and product manager? So, when we go look at blog posts or YouTube videos that kind of make a comparison between product manager and product owner. A lot of times, they these blog posts or YouTube videos they make their own. Um, assumption about what product owner is. And a lot of times in this blog post, the role of product owner is, I would say, is kind of downgraded by these blog posts or by these YouTube videos. And they make interpretation based on their limited view. And when I say that is the limited view is only based on Scrum Guide. Okay, so they read Scrum Guide, they read about the role of product owner and Scrum Guide. So they make their own interpretation, they make their own assumption based on their limited view. And the limited view is only like based on Scrum Guide. And a lot of times the role of product owner is downgraded or undermined by these blog posts or YouTube videos. So I took a different path. So around 5 years ago, I sent an email to one of the co-creator of Scrum, because as a Scrum.org professional Scrum trainer, I get to interact and I can have like a conversation with one of the co-creator of Scrum himself, and that is Ken Schwaber. So I sent email to Ken Schwaber. Hey Ken, why did you came up with like the term product owner instead of product manager, right? So why would he want to kind of create another role, a new role, a new name, a new term, rather than just using what already existed in the market? Because the term product manager already existed prior to Scrum. And Ken, as usual, he just liked to answer with one-line statement. He just said, ownership goes far further than simple management. And that's it. Like, there's no further explanation. So it made me think, and that's what Ken likes to do. Ken Schwaber liked to like give a one-line statement, so people think. So he doesn't like to kind of spoon-feed people like full elaborative explanation. He would like people to kind of think. And just one simple sentence like this, it made me think. So ownership goes far further than simple management. What does he mean by that? And after I did some research, kind of I kind of asked him back, and is this why you kind of came up with the term product owner? So I did the research, and then let's go back with how did the term product manager kind of emerge in the industry. So around 1931, there is a young, fresh graduate from university. Um, he works at P&G. His name is Neil McElroy. So he was really new to the company, and then this 3 pages memo that Neil McElroy kind of sent to everyone in the company just kind of changed the industry back then. A lot of companies kind of follow what P&G did. It started with this 3 pages memo that Neil McElroy sent to P&G. So Neil was really concerned back then. He need to market a product, one of P&G's product. It was a soap. Kamei. I'm not sure if I kind of pronounce it right. Kamei soap. Back then, around 1930-ish, McElroy need to kind of market this soap, but he's facing like a stiff competition. He didn't have much wiggle room because as a marketer, as the salesperson, like he doesn't have much authority to kind of expand the possibility for this soap to outreach the market. So in his 3 pages memo, he suggested the role called brand manager. So the term product manager actually started with brand manager first. So the brand manager have like full authority, full ownership for each brand. They kind of um, I the brand that's under their product portfolio. So however they're going to kind of sell that product, what strategy they want to put in, they should have full authority on defining the strategy to sell it to the market, uh, how to promote it, pricing strategy, and so forth. So the brand management concept back then just kind of caught attention by many other companies. And bear in mind, back then, the context is consumer goods product. So the brand manager, which then evolved to product manager, um, they they don't define how the product should look like. So they will just be given, okay, here's the product, go sell it. So they don't have authority, quote unquote, to kind of define what feature should go in the product. They just need to sell it. So they're mostly focused in the business aspect of the product. Then along the way, the term brand manager evolved into product manager. Around 1960-ish, several technology company kind of embrace this term product manager, like Hewlett Packard, for example, or IBM. But the product manager just manage a portfolio of products. They don't get to define, oh, this should go in the product, this should go in the product. They just have authority on how to go to market, how to sell it, the pricing strategy, promotion, marketing, and so forth. So then brand manager term then evolved to product manager, and product manager manages a portfolio of the product. So if we look at from product perspective, there's two main aspects of the product lifecycle. So as I explained, back then, this is prior to what we are experiencing now, the world we are experiencing now. So when Ken kind of came up with the term product owner, what he see in the market is that the product manager does not have authority in defining what should go in the product. So bear in mind that Ken Schwaber and Jeff Sutherland or already kind of came up with Scrum around um, late 1980s and early 1990s. So this is based on what they saw back then. The product manager just manage a portfolio of products. They're responsible to kind of promote it, sell, sustain it, but they don't get to kind of involve in the development aspect and then the delivery aspect. So even technology companies have another role back then. It's the delivery manager. So the delivery manager are the one who are kind of in close contact with the development team, with the delivery team, and the delivery manager are the one who kind of strategize. How should we deliver? What should go in the product? What features should go in the product? The delivery manager may hear feedbacks like from the product manager, but the delivery manager may not necessarily hear or just kind of do whatever the product manager say. So because of this, what Ken and Jeff saw is there is a friction, there is a conflict of interest because the delivery manager um, mostly are really technical, while the product manager are really business oriented. So there is a friction. So if a product manager requests for something, that might be sellable in the market, but the delivery manager said, no, this is not like really feasible. This is like a nonsense. It won't go in. So rather than having two separate role that's has authority like for different things. So what Ken and Jeff want is let's look at a product as a whole. Like do not separate like the development and delivery aspect and promoting, selling, and sustaining aspect. Let's look at product life cycle as a whole, starting from it comes from inception until that product probably dies in the market because nobody wants to use that product anymore. So, what Ken and Jeff had in mind, let's just have like a single role. So, the product owner would interact directly with the development team and the delivery team, but also interact with the stakeholders or the customers, the users of the product. Just have a single person. And delivery manager does not have kind of authority, just have a single role. So let's make this role more collaborative. Collaborate with the development team and also collaborate with the user stakeholders and also the customers. Let's have one role called a product owner, and the product owner owns. So when Ken came up with the term product owner, a lot of times a product manager does not really own the product. So that's why he said ownership goes far more than beyond just simple management. Like when you own this product owner, we can say that they would die for the product because they own the product. They would stand up like for the product. They would do anything for the product to be successful. So ownership goes far beyond just managing because you can manage, but you don't really own it. So think about it like in a company, like in a company perspective, like the company owner owns the company. The manager just manage the work that needs to be done in within that company, but the managers does not really own the company. The manager still need to follow whatever the company owner wish him or her to do. So that's why he came with the term product owner. Now, a lot of misperception in the market. Again, as I said in the beginning, when people make interpretation about product owner, they read Scrum guide. Yeah, that's good. Like that's a first step. And when they read Scrum guide, what I have observed is, so they read the section about product owner, and a lot of times people just interpret based on their bias or based on their assumption what the product owner role is. So one of the highlight there is the product owner gets to manage the product backlog. Now, if people bring their bias when they read a Scrum guide, so they may produce wrong interpretation. So usually when people read that part, the product owner manage product backlog, a lot of times people's bias start to chime in. Oh, managing product backlog. So this looks like business analyst kind of role or requirements engineer who writes perfect user story, ensure that the user story is according to that format. As a customer, I want functionality so that benefit. Um, well, when we look at Scrum Guide, Scrum just focus on the Scrum itself, but the product owner is beyond just what's written in Scrum Guide, and that's quite impossible to kind of list down everything that the product owner must do. What we have to keep in mind is Scrum is just a framework. It's incomplete. It's bare bone. So organizations, when they read Scrum Guide, they're given that kind of freedom to kind of explore what else is missing, what else is needed to make Scrum work in their context. So, product owner is not the development team secretary. If we look at a company owner from company owner perspective, like would the company owner like do the majority of the tactical works? No, right? The company owner would delegate some of their his or her work to his or her manager or supervisors, and that should also be the same with product owners. The owner of the product as someone who has authority over the product. It doesn't make sense for an owner to be the secretary for the development team. So this is one of the misconception that people in the market get. And a lot of times I hear like down the hall, people said, "Oh, product owner is just the glorified requirements engineer." They just like write that detailed user story. In the past, we write it like in a functional specification documentation. Now they just need to write it in user story, make sure that the story mapping is kind of perfect, and so forth. But no, product owner is not development team secretary, and definitely not the Jira admin. As I see this a lot of product owners I met, like they fiddle around a lot with Jira admin. I think if I kind of look at like their time, how they consume their time in a sprint, like 80% of their time would be fiddling around with Jira, ensuring that the acceptance criteria is perfect, make sure it's linked between one story to another like correctly. No, product owner is definitely not team secretary or even the Jira admin. So here are some other myths that people have. The most common ones, people think that product owner is dev team secretary or Jira admin. Yeah, some people think that product owner is just like another name for business analysts. Some people think, oh, product owner just focus at tactical level because they just read Scrum guide. And yes, Scrum doesn't say the strategic aspect that the product owner must do. And because Scrum is a framework and every company have different strategy, it would be impossible for Scrum guide to kind of list down all of the strategic activities that the product owner must do. In another context, I've seen people think, oh, product owner is just like another name for project manager. But that would be a different discussion. So I will not touch on that. Um, and in fact, I actually have a video on my YouTube videos. If you kind of search what's the difference between project manager and product owner. But no, a product owner is not a project manager. Yeah, and in some contexts, a lot of people think that product owner is to ensure that the development team always deliver high velocity from sprint to sprint. That's not true. Product owner actually focus more on the outcome of the product rather than output number of features. So, product owner, we can say, is like the mini CEO, not the real CEO, like the CEO of the product. So as you can see, there's this blog written by Don McGrill. So the first four, like scribe, proxy, business representative, and sponsor, are what commonly happens, like in the industry, how people kind of set up the product owner. Scribe is I actually prefer to kind of like in my classes rather than scribe. Um, I usually kind of Scrap is like the dev team secretary. So Scrap is like that dev team secretary or that Jira admin, ensuring that the user story is written perfectly and so forth. And Scribe and Proxy, a lot of times when we look at it, they mostly focus on tactical aspects of the product. The development team may like them because they can write like great, perfect user stories. but a lot of time they're missing opportunities in doing the strategic aspect. Proxy are just like the middle person um, between the development team and the business, and a lot of time proxies are unable to say no. So in fact, I tell a lot of product owners that if you can never say no, your yes doesn't have any meaning. So great product owners need to be able to say no. Even if a CEO requested that, but if you're like the real owner of the product, you would able to say no for thing that doesn't meet the product vision, your long-term strategy. Now, what we want, especially in the Scrum.org community, the product owner is the mini CEO and an entrepreneur. They have full authority with the product's profit and loss. They work mostly on the strategic aspect. They're able to say no. They're not just a proxy. They're not just a middle person. They would die for the product. They really have ownership with the product. Now, this is the real product owner. So, if the behaviors are mostly on tactical, writing user stories, creating story maps, if most of their activities is still there, they're not really the product owner yet. Going again back to the analogy of a company owner, would you ever see a company owner who mostly work on the tactical aspect of the company? No, right? So the same with product owner. Awesome product owners are the CEO of the product or the mini CEO. They have full authority with the product. Product owner owns validation. The product owner may validate um, how the product should be, whether what we are developing really what the customer really want. Product owner owns the vision of the product, and product owner have authority over the value of the product. And you can read more about this on this great book written by Don McGrill and Rolf Jochum. If you haven't read it, read this book, The Professional Product Owner. So when talking about vision, now there's multi layers of vision, right? So usually I'm saying that usually, not all the times, usually the product vision is derived from the company strategy. As you can see, like recently, like some companies, they kind of change the strategy of the company. If you look at like companies like Airbnb, for example, they changed their strategy for the future. And when the company strategy changed, that product vision will change also. And usually, company strategy is owned by the CEO or the founder of the company. But product owner owns starting like from the product vision, uh, OKR if the organization implement like objective key result. Um, in sprint goal, the product owner sort of like have a shared ownership with the development team. The sprint goal is the layer where the product owner and the development team meet together. So sprint goal, I would say, is a shared ownership between the product owner and the development team. And the development team would use that sprint goal as an indicator, like whether they are achieving the sprint, whether the sprint is successful. And usually the development team would use the sprint goal as a benchmark, as a point of discussion during daily Scrum. So product owner have like own a multi-layer of vision, as you can see from this onion layer. So, a lot of people, as I said in the beginning, when they read Scrum Guide, oh, product owner just need to attend sprint planning, sprint retrospective, collaborate with the team, present to the stakeholders during sprint review, and manage the product backlog. So this is like the tactical works of the product owner, and this is written in Scrum Guide. But it doesn't mean this is the only thing that the product owner do. I often tell product owners, well, you need to do everything that it takes, even it's not mentioned in Scrum Guide to ensure that that product that you own is valuable in the market. Scrum is just a framework. You need to figure out what are the strategic aspects you need to do so that your product is successful. So Scrum enables the product owner to kind of get feedback loops, validate assumptions, ensuring that only the most valuable thing gets built and so forth. But there are strategic aspects that the product owner need to do also. Product owner owns the marketing and sales strategy, how to release it to the market. As we see on the previous slide, the vision of the product, the legal aspect, if this product is going to be shipped or deployed in certain countries, product owner have like an overview of the legal aspect, partnering with third parties, acquiring another companies to kind of expand the current product capability. That's also part of product owners strategic work, creating business case, how to have a customer retention, sustain the product, make sure the product doesn't die too soon. Product owner have budget and manage the profit and loss for that product. Product owner also manage the strategy of pricing, how much price that makes sense. Product owner can kind of tweak and change the prices to ensure that the product is successful. So the product owner's responsibility is much bigger than just doing Scrum, than just interfacing with the development team. And in fact, whenever I kind of show this kind of schema to a lot of product owners, they kind of say, "Oh, okay, so it looks like I need to kind of delegate some things to the development team. I cannot kind of do all of this all by my own because my responsibility to ensure that the product is successful is really big." And in fact, this is written in Scrum Guide. There is a part in Scrum Guide that says the product owner may do the above work. And one of that work is writing the product backlog items, writing the user stories. Uh, Scrum Guide gives option. Product owner may do it. And a lot of times the assumption is if it's feasible for the product owner to kind of do it, um, go do it. But usually as the team scales, the product owner need to have a strategy. Um, Product owner need to kind of delegate some of the work. So going back to the initial question, what's the difference between product manager and product owner? Product manager, uh, if we see today, a lot of like companies that create digital product, a lot of times the product manager is the product owner. But there is an if. Only if the product manager have full ownership of the product, if the product manager is like the mini CEO of the product, accountable for the whole aspect of the product, not only the tactical aspect, but also the strategic aspect, not only like the business aspect, but also the delivery and the development aspect of the product. But what's more interesting that I see in the market is people with the title product owner is actually may not necessarily be the product owner. So I'm playing around with words here. What does this mean? People with the title product owner is may not necessarily be the product owner. So be careful because product owner, according to Scrum Guide, is a role. It's not a job title. It's not a function. So even though someone has a title product owner, and even some companies like have this title like chief product owner, like what does that even mean? Like an owner of a chief? But anyway, why does the ones with the title product owner is not necessarily the product owner? So let's take an analogy. Let's say we have Anna here. Her title is head of product, and we have Jenny. Her title is product owner. But look at the situation in the organization. If Anna just kind of push a lot of work, delegate a lot of work. Anna is the one, let's say, accountable for the value of the product, for the strategic aspect of the product to ensure that the product is successful. Bear in mind, don't be tricked, don't be fooled. A lot of times when I go into these kind of companies, usually it's digital product companies. Um, be careful because product owner is a role. The product owner may actually be Anna instead of Jenny. So in this kind of situation, I prefer to call Jenny as the manager of the product because Jenny doesn't really own the product. Jenny only work in the tactical aspect of the product. Because think about it. Does it make sense for an owner to report to a manager? Does it make sense, right? So a manager is always below an owner. Now, in in the context when there is only one development team, there's one product owner. And when you read Scrum Guide, the context is only for single development team. But what if the product scales? Now, you don't read Scrum Guide when the product scales when there are multiple teams. There is another guide which I suggest you read. It's called the Nexus Guide. So this is how a product owner works with multiple development teams. So when the product scales, there's multiple development teams. There's still a single product. There's still one product owner. Um, think about it. If a company scales, the company add more staff, more people. Um, do you kind of have multiple CEOs? It's still one CEO, right? You don't add additional CEO just because the product scale. So when the product scales, there's still one product owner. And for this context, please read Nexus Guide to understand how is the setup in the multiple development team. And then this a question a lot of times that people ask me, and I was involved with this digital product company based in Malaysia. So we want to create a career path. Now, a lot of times, people just misinterpret the role of product owner. And what I like working with when worked with this company, they take semantics seriously, and they said the product owner should be the highest in the product level. And probably the next step for product owner after that become the CEO of the company. So an entry level person, if they want to work in the department of product or the product group, the entry level they call it just call it the associate product manager. Then if that person can prove that he or she is capable, we'll give him like a title product manager, afterwards senior product manager, after that head of product, after that the highest is product owner. So what I like working with this company is they take it seriously, and in fact they said not everybody can be the product owner. Not everybody would die for the product, so let's not just give this title away recklessly. So let's do it properly. And if you think about it from semantic perspective, think about it from semantic perspective. Oh, have you ever seen like a company owner below a manager? No, right? So why do we put product owner below product manager? And this is what Ken mentioned in the beginning of my slide. This is why he think that product ownership goes beyond just managing a product. So that is all from me. So I think I'm going to go through the question. Uh, oh, there aren't that many questions, which is good. So if you have any question, you can ask me. Uh, put it on the chat window on your right hand side if you're watching today's live stream from a web browser, or I think it's down below if you're watching this from a tablet or a mobile phone. So I'm looking forward to see any questions that you may have. All right. see. Any questions? Yeah, Eileen. Hi, Eileen. How's it going? What question have you got for today's live stream? What if the company put principal or lead product owner? Yes, I see that a lot of times. And I think if we're looking like from language perspective, from semantic perspective, it's kind of confusing. But I do understand, as I mentioned, like in my early slides, people have limited perspective, and a lot of times people make their own interpretation, and usually that interpretation is based on a Scrum guide. So they think that product owner and Scrum guide, as I said, the context is like a single product, single team. So people think, oh, if I have multiple teams, I just put another layer on top of the product owner. But it shouldn't work that way. When you look at like a company, let's say a startup company, there is one owner, which is usually the founder of the company. The founder may have like several staff. So as the company grows, like the founder goes up, and then you fill in the vacuum in the middle, right? Rather than putting layers on top of the company owner. That doesn't make sense. So the product owner, if you read Nexus guide, the product owner goes up, and then you fill in the vacuum in the middle, rather than putting titles like chief product owner above the product owner or principal product owner, because an owner is an owner. Like, have you ever seen like a company that have a title like lead CEO or principal CEO? CEO is still the CEO, right? If the company grows, the CEO just still the CEO goes up and then fills in the vacuum in the middle, and then you probably put several managers in between. So as a career path, as I kind of mentioned in my previous slide, so we probably need to kind of tweak the 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 job titles. So rather than putting a title above the product owner, make the product owner as the highest, and then probably below product owner, probably you have like a lead product manager or senior product manager or principal product manager, and so forth. But again, this can be quite debatable, like in the product management community, in the agile community. Um, I'm looking at this from semantic perspective, because if you mess up with English, like putting like a chief owner above the owner, it just kind of confuse people, or like a principal owner, lead owner. So an owner is not really an owner. There is a lead owner. There is a principal owner. Yeah. So I'm just looking at this like um, from semantic perspective, from English perspective. As product Ardiansha, as product owner, should we conduct the product management such as research to validate or align? Yes, definitely. In fact, one of the activities at the strategic aspect that the product owner needs to do is do market research. But product owner does not need to do it by him or herself. As the owner of the product owner, in fact, can delegate such work. And usually, the product owner may engage the user experience professionals, because they might be more expert in doing kind of market research and validation. As the owner of the product owner can delegate such work to a more expert in that area. And usually, the product owner kind of outsource it or delegate it to the user experience. Um, yeah. Next, from Yoda is Kardansha. What are the key success metric of product owner? So, from product owner perspective, as the product owner is the owner, one of the three V that the product owner owns, besides vision and validation, is value. So, how do we know the product owner is successful? Profit. That's it. Profit. If the product owner can bring profits from the product he or she owns, product owner is successful. That's it. Let's not um, make it overcomplicated. Profit for profit-based companies, but for non-profit-based companies, I work with a lot of government institution, like in Western Australia, and for them, profit doesn't make sense because a government institution does not make profits. So value in profit-based company, value is profit. In non-profit, it might be risk, risk of humiliated by the citizen. So whatever value is according to your context. But product owner is accountable. The key success criteria of a product owner is value. Profit for profit-based companies. In a non-profit based companies or like NGO, government institution, value might be something else. It might not be value. Yeah. Yeah, be careful with just product market fit. That is too narrow. You need to be more explicit. You need to be more detailed because a product, a lot of times, customer may like the product, but the product is not generating value. It's not generating profit. And there are a lot of products in the market that are like that, right? Um, the customer like it because it's free, but the company is not making money out of it. Then product owner is not really successful, even though it fits the market really love it, but the market love it because it's free. But when we ask customers to pay for the product, customer actually ran away. So yeah, so a good indicator is just profits. Uh, conduct well, from RD conduct profit and loss. So the product owner have like an overview of the P&L of that specific product. Now, a lot of times when you look at it, um, whether the title is product owner or product manager, uh, they don't have an overview. They cannot see what's the profit and loss uh, from that product, from that specific product. So product owner should be able to kind of see. In fact, the product owner should have like an access to budgets. Why? Because the product owner is accountable for value. How can the product owner maximize value if the product owner does not have access to a budget? If the product owner cannot see the profit and loss or the cash flow or yeah. So the product owner must have access to that. That must be visible. That must be transparent. The product owner should be able to kind of see profit and loss and cash flow. Yeah, because a lot of product owner and a lot of product manager, they just do whatever their boss say. So they're not really the owner of the product. Is it fine? We've got another question from Ibnu. Is it fine if the product owner have delegate person become product owner delegate in small? Yeah. Let's not complicate it. Product owner can have delegate, um, and a lot of times you see like the proxy. The proxy is not really the owner of the product, right? So if you ask, can the product owner have a delegate? Of course. As the owner of the product owner cannot do everything, right? So product owner can delegate it. As I said in the beginning, in the previous question, a lot of times product owner may delegate like a validation, market research work to user experience people because the product owner may not have such time to kind of do those activities. But don't call it PO delegate. Call it something else. Like don't confuse people. Like, don't play around with language. If you're going to come up with terms, make it clear and not confuse people. Like, what does PO delegate mean? Like, an owner that is just a delegate? Probably just call it like a product manager. So I personally like to call the people underneath product owner as the product manager, because if you look at from company perspective, a manager is always below the company owner, right? So the product owner can just um, delegate such work to the product manager, and the product manager is like the delegate. All right. Thank you so much, everybody, for attending today's live stream. I really appreciate it. I will be doing more of these live stream in the future, and I like to kind of bust some of the myth we commonly see in the market. And yeah, if you see on the screen below right now, um, I do a lot of professional Scrum product owner classes, and because of the recent pandemic, and I'm really glad that Scrum.org kind of respond to this situation. So now we can run a virtual training. So I do a lot of virtual professional Scrum product owner training. What that means is wherever you are right now, whether you are in South America, USA, or Canada, Europe, Africa, Asia, Australia, New Zealand, you can attend my live virtual training. But unlike offline training, where it's run like a full day, so my live virtual training will run for like 4 hours a day. But it goes for 3 days rather than 2 days. So if you are interested to explore more about product owner beyond just what's written in Scrum Guide, so our Scrum.org courses gives you the tools for you to be successful as a product owner, and most importantly, you can optimize the value of your product, because that's the job of a product owner. And besides product owner classes from Scrum.org, I also do other interesting classes from Scrum.org, like Scrum with Kanban, Scrum with UX. So thank you, everybody, for watching today's live stream. If you're new to my channel, don't forget to subscribe to my channel, because I will be doing more of these live stream in the future. And in my live stream, I usually will answer some of the common questions, some of the misinterpretation, some of the misunderstandings we see in the market, most commonly in related with Scrum and Agile. All right. Thank you, folks. Thank you for watching. So if you aren't able to kind of attend today's live stream, if you're watching the recorded version of this, don't forget to subscribe, as I'll be doing more of these kind of live stream in the future. Until then, stay safe and stay healthy. See you until my next video, or see you until my next live stream. Thanks, everyone.